Hi friends, welcome to the Plain Fun RC channel. I'm your host, Saul, and we are continuing the build of the AMTN Burt Rutan Beechcraft Starship. Our focus right now is installing the Retracts, and you can see here we've opened up part of the wing. What we're trying to do right now is to actually install the Retract unit. The mounting rails are a little too tight, so we're having to sand away a little bit of the mounting rails to accommodate the actual unit itself. Now, once the unit is installed, then we'll go ahead and we'll actually be cutting out a wheel well as well. One friendly tip I want to pass along has to do with how long the strut needs to be from where it actually inserts here on the Retract all the way out, and it is 125 millimeters, meaning meaning the axle is going, the center of the axle is going to sit at exactly 125 millimeters. So when you cut the strut to reduce the length, make it a little bit longer, okay, a little bit longer, and so that way in the event you need to move the axle for any particular reason, maybe make it a little taller, which you shouldn't need to, but if you do, you'll be able to. Anyway, let's go ahead, continue our installation of the Retracts, and more to come. All right, friends, we continue our update here. We are installing the Retracts on the Beechcraft Starship. Let's talk about what we've got going on here. So first things first, now the manufacturer was recommending that the axle be placed 12.5 centimeters or 125 millimeters from the base here all the way out to where the center of the shaft, the wheel shaft would be, okay? That's not going to work. There isn't enough space between the mounting rails and the sides of the fuselage. So we're using a 3-inch wheel, and I have found that the furthest distance I can get from the Retract all the way to the axle for the wheel is 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters. Now, they're recommending, in metric terms, in terms of a wheel, like 2.9 inches. Well, I had a 3-inch wheel, that's fine. So that's probably why this has to be a little shorter. But you can see how we are literally taking the wheel well right up to the edge of the fuselage, so we can't go much further. So we've gone ahead, we have our holes drilled and tapped, and used a little CA as well. We're going to need to trim away a little bit of the actual mounting rail because you've got that little twirl there in the gear. So you've got to clear away just a little bit. You don't have to do too much. You don't want to take too much of the rail away, just enough to along the side here, so this will sit nice and flush once the gear is retracted. The other thing is we're going to have to clear out some of the ribs that are here and a little bit of the spars. And I can tell you this, if you're building the wing, you're going to want to reroute those wires differently than what they show in the manual. In the manual, they show them going this way. They really need to pass through this part of the wing because they're going to be kind of in the way, because not only do we have to cut out the hole here, trim away the rib, trim away the spars, but we've got to create a wheel well out of balsa. And I'll show you what I mean as we go along. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, you're looking at the left Retract. We've got this installed. A couple things I want to point out to you real quick. You've got a notch right here that you're going to have to go ahead and make for the curved piece of wire here. That's pretty deep, too. It's about halfway down the thickness of the wood. I think it would have been better if they had actually just had the mounts stop right about right where the end of this plate is. That would have worked a little bit better. You wouldn't have to spend so much time clearing this out, but you've got to make sure that is very deep, as you can see, okay? Because if you don't, the spring is going to get caught up on here. Plus, make sure that the sheeting here is clear, because if you watch very carefully, watch that curved piece as it goes in, it just barely clears the sheeting. So you want to keep that in mind. You don't want it to get caught when it's retracting or extending. All right, let's go ahead and build our wheel well and hit the other side as well. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see we've gone ahead. We have removed the rib and some of the spars here, as you can see, so we can clear our wheel, and it works really well. Let's go ahead and show you what we got here. And then coming back. Perfect. One more time. And again. Very good. All right, friends, let's go ahead and we're going to work on the right side. More to come. All right, friends, we got both retracts installed. We're looking here at the right side. We went ahead, we cleared out our wheel well, which worked out really well. And I'll make sure to put a measurement of how much of the ribs and the spars need to be removed in the description. We've also gone ahead, we've cut out our notch here for our curled portion of our landing gear. And we've also gone ahead and refined our hole so it's nice and round and gives us a little space around the wheel for when we install our wheel well. And I thought I'd give you a quick shot of the retracts working. Here we go. One more time. Fantastic. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here, you can see we've got our ribs that we're putting in place, the ribs you can see there, and notice how they have a very large opening. You can see the one in my hand. And we're going to put 2 per wheel well and act as supporting structures for what will be the base of the wheel well. And on top of that rib, we're going to wind up putting 1.5 millimeter balsa. Now we have large openings on the bottom of these ribs, if you will, because in the event that we need to pass the wire through again or remove it for any particular reason, we want to easily be able to pass it through the rib without any problem. So we've cut 4 of these all together. And we're going to go ahead, put 2 in this one, and then 2 in the other wheel well over there. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see we've got our ribs in place, and you can see how we have it set up so that the wire passes through. So now we're going to go ahead and put on the bottom portion of what will be the wheel well, and then after that, we'll do a wrap around the wheels to create a circular portion to match the circular portion of the actual wheel well itself. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see we've got our wheel well base down here. We wound up using 3 pieces of balsa. I did try a circular piece, but I just couldn't get it to fit properly. I wanted to make sure it went all the way out to the side, so when we did go ahead and put the walls in place, that it gave a nice finished look. Now, the hole in the center is for the axle. The axle is just a little bit longer than the actual depth of the wheel well. Now, what we're going to do is we're then going to go ahead and use 1.5 millimeter balsa around the edge. This stuff's very flexible, and you can see it actually fits right in there pretty nicely, as a matter of fact, without any water. You can do it by hand and get it so it fits in there. But I'm going to go ahead and soak it because I want to get a nice bend, and most importantly, I want to make sure it's at 90 degrees. We don't want it tipping in or out because the wheel well is it's a tight fit. It's a tight fit. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, our wheel well for our right wheel is done, and it went really well. A couple things. We, once again, continued with the 1.5 millimeter balsa that came with the kit. At first, I thought I was going to have to soak it with 1 part water, 1 part alcohol, but it's very flexible. You don't need it. I will tell you have to use 3 pieces, at least in the curved area here, in order for it to fit properly, but that's okay, because it actually works better that way, and also it makes it easier to glue. Now, I will tell you, make sure the pieces are at 90 degrees. In other words, make sure the bottom part down here isn't inward, okay? If anything, it could be outward, but if you make sure it's 90 degrees, you're fine. The wheel fits really well. Also, let's not forget 2 little pieces right here as well. You can see we've got a piece here, and then on the opposite side, right over here, we've got another piece down there, so that'll help to close off the wheel well as much as possible. And I think I might wind up covering up this hole. I don't think we're going to need it for the axle after all. But I will tell you one thing I did have to change. So initially, these are 3-inch wheels, okay? But you can see they're a little square. So I found that when these were retracting into the newly created wheel well, they were rubbing just a little bit. So I had some 3-inch Dubros, a little more curved, as you can see when we look at it from the rear. And they do not rub at all. And let me go ahead and show you how she looks. Perfect. Look at that. One more time for love. Because you gotta love it. All right, friends, more fun to come. All right, friends, we finished up the left wheel well. Now, initially, you can see it's not super round. It didn't come out quite as good as I hoped it would. Initially, I had a hole cut, and it wound up being too narrow in too many places, so I had to cut out almost all the sheeting and resheet it again, and then it wound up being too big, so I had to put some additional sheeting in there, and you can see it. It's not great looking, not like the other side, but that's okay. It's all going to be covered anyway, so you're not going to see any of these gaps. But she works, as you can see here. There we go, nice fit for the most part. One more time. And there we go. All right, friends. More to come. All right, friends, the photos you just saw were photos I received from the manufacturer regarding the installation of the nose gear, and I thought I'd share those with you. You can see not only did he provide photos of the actual installation, also provided photos of a little hatch, if you will, that he created to help cover up this area, and we'll get into that later on. All right, let's talk about what we've got here. We have our E-flite 60 to 120 nose gear unit, okay? And it does include this wonderful little arm, and the nice thing about it, it has these centering springs, which you can see there on the bottom if you look very carefully right there. These are actual little springs, so this helps to keep the nose wheel centered when it's retracted. So that's great. All right, so let's talk about our plan here. Now, when you purchase the 60 to 120 nose gear unit, E-flite does sell separately an adjustable strut. Now, I would recommend buying the strut, and I'll tell you why. Because the strut has notches pre-cut in it for the set screw that is here. Now, this set screw that you see right there, that set screw is not designed to hold the actual strut in place. It keeps it from falling out. In other words, you're not tightening it up to the point where this can't move, because you still need this to be able to rotate so you can steer. Now, in addition, it also has a little notch up above to go to the upper part of the shaft. So there's an included C-ring that helps to go ahead and keep the strut in place. It includes the steering arm. The nice thing about the steering arm is this wonderful little device right here. So when the retract is retracted and the steering servo is still moving, the arm actually slides back and forth. So it's a wonderful little addition. This was included with the actual retract unit. So because I don't have the actual E-flite strut, no big deal. Minor things. We're going to cut little notches here in the actual strut to help the set screw hold the strut in place. Also a little notch to help hold the steering arm in place. What I did do, okay, and what is normally included in the strut that goes with the 60 to 120 nose gear unit is an adjustable axle on it, but I happen to have one here from Dubro, which we're going to go ahead and use, and that's a DUB 614 if you're looking to get it. This just goes through, as you can see, it slides on the end. We'll have to trim the actual strut itself to help get the proper length. By the way, folks, the proper length, 100 millimeters. So if you're measuring from here down to the very center of the actual shaft itself that the wheel is going to attach to, that is 100 millimeters. So just keep that in mind. This strut the retract unit is going to sit right up against this former right here. We're going to call it a firewall, but it's not a firewall since the engines are in the back. It's going to sit all the way up like this, just so you know. And I'm thinking about adding gear doors. I would like to try a set of gear doors. Let me see how this comes out and see if we can get this working properly. And if so, I think we'll give the gear doors a shot. All right, friends, let's install the retract. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, our front retract is installed. Let's talk about what we did. First of all, you'll notice right here, we had to go through and clear out a little bit of the former right down here, just the width of the retract unit. We just used a little sandpaper to do that. Now, there is a 3-wire right here, and the 3-wire is in a position such that it prevented the mounting plates from sitting flush against the fuselage, but that's an easy fix. we took about 1/8 of an inch plywood and put cut two pieces, one here, and you can see the other one over here, and it raised the retract up enough so it cleared the 3-wire, and it also allowed it so that way the wheel does not require an opening in the bottom of the fuselage, which is great. Now, a couple things you want to keep in mind. We did go ahead, and you can see the C-clip right here, and we had to go ahead and cut a little notch in the landing gear where the C-clip was located. We also had to cut a little flat spot. In addition to the notch we cut on the strut, we had to cut a little flat spot on the strut itself, because this set screw right here is back up to help keep the strut from falling off the plane. Finally, we had to do a flat spot where the steering arm is located, because obviously we don't want that rotating or spinning on its own. So with that, we went ahead and we've gotten a perfect setup. Now, one thing I want to mention, I do wish that they would have gone ahead and designed the plane so the retract unit was a little more recessed. I realize I can't really put doors on here because you can see from the side, let me go ahead and show you, how the wheel is clearly not in the wheel well. So one other thing that I was thinking about, and some of you may want to try this if you do get the kit, is maybe a 105-degree retract. In other words, where the unit itself actually retracts up 105 degrees. So something to think about there. And you may want to consider recessing the retract a little bit. Now, one important thing you want to keep in mind, from here, right there, right where my fingernail is located, all the way up to the center of the axle is 100 millimeters. So if you do recess your retract, just remember, you've got to compensate for that distance. It'll need to be a little longer. We're using a 2.5-inch wheel, and let me go ahead and show you how well she retracts. And back down again. And one more time. There we go. Now, the only thing we have to do is we just need to go ahead and to put in the steering servo, which will fit inside the bay right here, and then we need to create some kind of hatch for the plane so we can go ahead and get a little better aerodynamics. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, I thought you might enjoy this. And back up. One more time. And back up. Not bad, considering this is the very first time I've ever installed retracts on a kit. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, in addition to doing the landing gear, we're also working on the radio. Right now we're working to create some servo hatches. Now, when you get the plane, it does not include any hatches for the servo. What they show in the instructions is that you would install the servo here on the plywood plate, and then you would just take it and just cover the servo area with covering. I don't like that at all, and I'll tell you why. If you're at the field, something happens to the servo, you need to adjust something, fix something, whatever it might be, that would require you to cut and remove the covering, and then you can't fly because you have to go back and patch it back up. So therefore, I had to create some of the servo hatches. Now, the way I did it is that in the kit, these cutouts represent the plywood here in the wing, the plywood support, which is where the servo would normally be attached to. Now, you've got two different sizes. Keep in mind, you've got one for the horizontal stabilizer / canard, and then one for the wings. So, and they're different sizes. The ones for the wings are larger, so do keep that in mind. So when you're going through and you're building the wing, don't throw these cutouts away. Okay, there would have been two here for the wing. I accidentally cut this one on the bandsaw. But anyway, nonetheless, just something to keep in mind. Keep those cutouts. You're going to need to make your own servo hatches. So pretty straightforward. Just go ahead, give yourself about a little bit of space going around the actual openings themselves, whether it's the canard or the wing, because you want to keep in mind too that these are going to be covered, and you're going to have covering going in here. So of course that's going to help fill in the gap a little bit. So you don't want to make it too tight. A little bit on the loose side is always a good idea. Now we just have to go ahead and install a couple hard points here, and to go ahead and help hold this in place. And we've got our wings taken care of as well. Same thing, no different there. There's our servo hatches for each of our wings. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see I've got her up on her wheels, and she just looks great. Looks really, really good. Even went ahead and put the 5-bladed props on, and just real excited with the way things are coming along. Now the nose gear, as you can see, is a little taller than the mains. You can see by the angle of the plane. So I reached out to the manufacturer because I think the measurement he gave me, or where to measure from, was incorrect. So I'll have to shorten the nose gear a little bit, but it works out great. My biggest concern too were the props, if they would strike in the rear, but you've got that little rudder back there, and when we pick up the nose of the aircraft, you can see that the rudder prevents a prop strike, much like the full size. So I do wish the mains were a little bit taller, but that's about as long as you can get them. But outside of that, she's looking great. Very excited. Very excited. And more to come.